there's a lot of difference between distribution of content and long-term storage of production material, either after it's archived or during production. So with PICs, they get involved on the front end piece, and there's a lot of interest within the studios of going that route for storing or accessing online production material during production in some centralized fashion. Not just the images, but all of the content that's being produced from a metadata perspective, from the camera reports, from the sound logs, everything together in one central cloud, if you want to call that, or some type of software that's going to hold all that information is critical. Parts of it are there, parts of it in some other groups. So from that perspective of a cloud, of a shared environment, there was a lot of talk about sharing. That's something that we feel from a studio perspective is critical. Doesn't exist today, but there's pieces of it being built. Connectivity, huge problem. Moving large sets of files. I mean, we talked about petabytes, so we talk about some of our feature films like The Hobbit, which is sort of an exception. You're talking 10 petabytes worth of content. Try moving that over a Sohonet line. It's not going to happen.
We just did.
all 10 petabytes. So you did it. There we go. We solved that problem. You probably put them on a container ship and shipping over all the servers probably is it. So yeah, connectivity for us is a big problem. Last year at NAB or the year before, I went to one of the military conferences and they talked about connectivity being a problem with them with all the satellite images, and they were going to develop a 40 gig line. That'd be very interesting to us, to you guys, I'm sure. So 10 gigs seems to be the model today. It's probably okay. Depends on what you're pushing through, timelines and so forth. And when we talk about deep storage on the digital front, yes, Amazon Glacier would be very interesting to us because the concept for us would be on a majority of the content that's produced, it never comes back. So for us, that's a great model. We just deposit it in there. It probably never comes back, or at least once every couple of years some material will come back, so that's a win-win for us. For us as a studio, when we talk about why some decisions are made, let's say on the infrastructure side, capital costs. That's something that Time Warner, and I have some people from HBO here, that's not what they like. They don't like to spend a lot of money on capital.
I remember going around a lot of the major studios and having discussions with them about electronic delivery and electronic transfer. And they were hugely nervous of anything that wasn't a physical delivery. It was like, no, I can see my film, I can see my tape, I'm very comfortable with that. I'll put it on a disk drive, I can carry it along. One of the same studios that told me that story then had an incident in the streets of Soho in London where, somebody was chased around the block with a, bunch of tapes that they definitely didn't want to get out. The whole thing flipped at that point, and suddenly people realized, hang on a minute, we've been trusting these guys to carry this stuff around, these couriers. They're the lowest paid guys on the whole set, anything to do with the whole production, and they're the ones carrying this stuff around. Maybe we do need to be thinking a different way of doing it.
So it may be less about the facilities being able to stand it up as part of their offering, but instead, I think trying to create a marketplace, if you will, where the people of the best talent are able to offer their services anywhere on the planet. From our perspective, one of the most exciting things about all of these offerings is people now with their own desktop machine, wherever they are in the world, can effectively compete for certain types of jobs. And so we have clients right now who are brick and mortar facilities, who have great colorists, who want to be able to let their artists work on projects where a few years ago you need to have the director come to your facility in order to, to see the output of the timing session that took place. There's infrastructure now so that director can stay in their office if they have the proper environment and work with the colorists on the other side of town if you don't want to deal with traffic, or in New York or anywhere. And I think that fundamentally is how facilities should look to leverage us. Whether they want to brand it or not, we can get them connected potentially into markets where they wouldn't otherwise get to work.
Right. What we hear from companies is that there is downward pressure on the cost of services. They want to be able to deliver value. They want to be able to get to market more quickly. They want to be able to, operate closer to their costs, have more predictability around costs. And I think that there's There are a lot of different solutions that can be built, a lot of different ways. I think many of those roads lead back to something that's provisioned the way a public cloud is provisioned. So there are a lot of different business models that are out there, but I think people will want to pay this way, and they'll want to take value from systems this way. So I think that'll end up dragging a lot of those workloads into this kind of infrastructure.